Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Paul, the coolest dad on this channel, and today I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to do a tech review of the EVA1 Panasonic camera. This camera right here. This is the camera that I've had for the last 2 years, and if you don't know, I produce all the content for the Merrell Twins channel. If you don't know who the Merrell Twins are, go look them up. They're these YouTubers. They're my daughters. And we've shot a lot of just like fun videos, whether it's a music video or like a full-on series. I've used this camera. Before I get started with this review, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to get notified when I post a new video. Just a few quick stats on this camera. It has a 5.7 super 35mm sensor. It has built-in neutral density filters. I think it's 2, 4, and 6 stops of neutral density, which is fantastic. It also has built-in XLR microphone inputs. It's got SDI out, HDMI out. It's got time code out. What else? I mean, it's just all the bells and whistles are on this camera. There may be some quirks about this camera that you'll find online that some people are annoyed with. Those people are just being super picky. This is a great camera. It gets a great image. And when we shot Prom Night, we shot with 2 EVA1s. Here's some footage from Prom Night that we shot with the Atlas lenses. They're anamorphic lenses, they're amazing. I mean, just look at how beautiful these images look. Now, I wanna say something to you right now. If you don't know what anything is on this camera is not for you. This camera is meant for people who know what they're doing behind the camera. Right out of the box, this camera will get a great image, okay? But it's no substitute for knowing what you're doing with the camera. And there's a lot of people that complain about cameras and the way they look or whatever, but usually you can get any camera to look amazing these days because most of the specs fall within the same range, all right? So this camera is actually qualified for Netflix production. So you can use this on a Netflix show and it qualifies for them to redistribute your material, your content, whatever you produce. You can produce content for Netflix with this camera. And there are many other cameras that qualify for it as well. The reason why I love this camera is because I actually started shooting on a Lumix GH2 years and years ago. Then I moved to GH4, got some GH5s, and then moved into this. Now what you need to know is that the color science that Panasonic has baked into these cameras are amazing. Is it better than other cameras? That's for you to decide. I personally like it because I know what the color will do. I know what this camera will do under certain lighting conditions. So that's why I've really stuck with the Panasonic brand. The other thing I love about this camera is it's been out for 2.5, almost 3 years, and it has not been replaced, okay? It hasn't been replaced, so there's not another version of this that's better right now. Now they're probably gonna release a camera, but for 3 years, my investment in this camera has been good. It hasn't been replaced, it hasn't been upgraded. Now there's been some updates to the software that's in this camera, but value-wise, I made a purchase and it stayed the same. There hasn't been like, oh, here's the camera this year, and then 6 months later, there's another camera. So Panasonic has done a really great job of holding the value of your camera. For example, their flagship camera, the VariCam, I don't know how long it's been out. They haven't updated it in a long time. It's probably due for something soon, but just think about that. For the last however many years, if you bought that camera, it's stayed relevant. This camera has stayed relevant for the last 3 years. And the truth of the matter is I have a GH4. I could shoot all the content that I wanted to on it and make it look great, okay? Again, it's about who's behind the camera rather than the camera itself. Because I have seen people with high-end cameras, and I won't name names or anything of what brand they were using, but I just say this, they've had high-end cameras, great tools, great lighting, all of that stuff, and still managed to shoot really bad footage. So you can have a great camera and not know what you're doing. So on my camera, right now, these are not my favorite lenses, okay? But these are the ones that I could afford. They're the Sigma 18-35 zoom lens. I have the 50-100 as well. There's a lot of reviews on these. Some people love them, some people don't. It's what I use, it works. Whenever we shoot higher end productions, I always rent lenses because glass, with the glass on the front of the lens, really makes a difference. The thing that's great about this camera, it's got 14 stops of dynamic range, so it gives you that cinematic look pretty easily. So I'll give you some of the downsides to this camera. So one of the weaknesses, it does just have the mini LCD screen, and it works fine. It's touch screen. It does everything it's supposed to do. It's not the greatest, so I added the Zacuto Z Finder on there, which is fantastic. I'm trying to think what else that I don't like about it. I mean, autofocus isn't great, but who cares? I mean, if you buy this camera for autofocus, what are you doing? Don't do that. Don't buy this camera and go, hey, I want it to autofocus. This is a cinematic camera. Man up and shoot it like you're supposed to. If you want a vlog camera, this is not the camera for you. If you want something that does autofocusing and is very, very automatic, not the camera for you. Move on to something else. Buy a cheap vlog camera, it'll look great. But if you're a filmmaker and you want to embrace the cinematic arts, this is a good choice. It's a good choice for you. Is it the best camera? That's up to you. I feel like it's a really solid camera. It works really, really well for what we're doing. I love the workflow. I love the color science. And don't get me started on ProRes RAW and how amazing it is to be able to shoot in ProRes RAW and color correct and just make things just look beautiful. And that's amazing. Unfortunately, it's in an external monitor that you have to use. It's not internal, but nevertheless, it's worth the effort. That being said, everything that everyone else complains about this camera, about like menus and you have to go this way and this and that and press buttons here and do all of that, I think you just kind of got to build a bridge and get over it. Once you get used to this camera, once you know it, it's really quick. It's like anything. You just get into it. You're able to just kind of go through it and just make it work for you. If you need to adjust something, you know where it's at. If you know the camera really well, you can get through it pretty quick. I'm just gonna say this. I mean, you can complain a lot about this camera and its idiosyncrasies, and I get it. I understand. There's a lot of people that do reviews that's how they make their living, is pointing out all the flaws. But I'm telling you, the biggest flaw about any camera is the person running it. Again, if you can't run the camera, don't buy it. If you don't know what you're doing, don't buy one. Just get something that's just really basic and really simple. There is nothing worse to me to have someone who spends all this money on something and doesn't really know how to use it. It's like seeing someone driving a Ferrari really slow. They don't know how to drive it fast. It's the same thing. It's this. Don't buy a camera that you don't know how to use, and don't waste your money and your time. You can rent one, hire someone who knows what they're doing with it. I've worked with some great DPs who come in, use my camera, make it look great. No one ever complains. So it's very versatile. You can rig this thing out to be incredibly small and compact. It only weighs 2.7 pounds, I think. It's very, very small. Strip down all the parts off of it so you can put it on a gimbal. Some people have put these on drones. Obviously, they know what they're doing with those, but you can really just make this super compact. The other thing is you can rig it completely out like we did for Prom Night, and you can shoot something that looks very cinematic and very amazing, high-end production with this camera. So, and the other thing that I love about it is you can use it for live broadcasts. So it's a very versatile camera, and there's a lot of cameras out there that are versatile. I'm not saying that this is the best camera. I'm just trying to give you some perspective, my perspective on my approach towards cameras in general. Is I like to stay within the same workflow, the same color space, all of that, because it's just easier for me, all right? Like I said, I started on GH2s, came all the way up to this camera, and now I have the S1H. It's a full frame camera. It's fantastic. That's what I'm shooting this on. So that's my review of the EVA1 camera. I love this camera. It's been a great investment. Honestly, there are a lot of great cameras out there, okay? There are a lot of them that have better specs than this camera. There are a lot of them that do better things than this camera. But for the money that I invested, I feel like I got a really good return on my investment. The fact that this camera has not been upgraded or replaced by another camera says something about the value that Panasonic puts in to their products. So yeah, I mean, if you have a Red or you have an Alexa, you have all those other cameras to choose from, it's great. This is what we use. This is the camera I like. Would I love to have an Alexa? Of course. Who wouldn't? They're great. They're fantastic cameras. This camera gets the job done for us, and we really like it. So anyway, so I was editing this video and I realized I didn't do a proper outro, so thanks for watching. Bye.